Dear students, welcome back to MNR's digital classes. This is the third part of electromagnetic waves. In this section, we are going to discuss about the electromagnetic waves. We are going to derive the differential equation for electromagnetic waves. Then we are going to find out the velocity of electromagnetic waves in free space. We are going to prove that electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. Then the phase relation between electric and magnetic fields in an electromagnetic wave. Then next part of this lecture includes the energy transport in electromagnetic waves, Poynting vector, Poynting theorem, and their physical significances. This is what we are going to learn in this session of electromagnetism. Electromagnetic waves. By assembling all the four of Maxwell's equations together and providing the correction to Ampere's law, Maxwell was able to show that electromagnetic fields can propagate as traveling waves. In other words, you can say that Maxwell's equation could be combined to form a wave equation. This insight got by Maxwell stands as one of the greatest theoretical triumphs in physics. Now, Maxwell's time-varying equations, that is, equations due to Faraday's and Ampere's law, shows that when electric and magnetic fields are time-dependent, they influence each other, are said to be coupled. That is, a time-varying electric field will lead to the generation of magnetic field. Similarly, a time-varying magnetic field will lead to electric field. The second part is due to Faraday's law. The first part is due to Ampere's law. When these two are coupled, as a result of this coupling, they produce traveling waves called as electromagnetic waves and which transport the energy. In this part of lecture, we are going to establish a differential equation for these electromagnetic waves. The existence of these electromagnetic waves were experimentally demonstrated by Heinrich Hertz in 1887. Now, before going to derive the differential equation, let us understand different types of media in which a wave can propagate. The medium, homogeneous medium. A medium is said to be homogeneous when permittivity, permeability, and conductivity remains a constant throughout media. At each and every part of the media, if it remains the same, these three parameters, then such a medium is called as homogeneous medium. Isotropic. A medium is said to be isotropic when dielectric permittivity is a scalar constant, that is, its value does not change with direction, such that the field vectors d bar, e bar, and b bar, h bar are uniform in all directions. I will repeat again. A medium is said to be isotropic if epsilon is the scalar constant such that the field vectors are uniform in all directions. If the field vectors are direction dependent, then such a medium is called as anisotropic medium. Free space. A medium free from all the sources of current and voltages is said to be a free space. For example, vacuum is an example for free space. So, unless it is mentioned, we are going to deal with a space which is linear, homogeneous, and isotropic. We know the generalized form of Maxwell's equation are given by the first equation, del dot D is equal to rho. Second equation is del dot B is equal to 0. Third equation is del cross E is equal to minus dou B by dou T. Fourth equation is del cross H is equal to J plus dou D by dou T. Now let us consider a linear, homogeneous, isotropic free space as the medium for the propagation of electromagnetic waves. We know that the free space is characterized by the parameters charge density rho is equal to 0, conductivity, electrical conductivity sigma is equal to 0, relative permeability mu r is equal to 1, relative permittivity epsilon r is equal to 1. So that the current density J is equal to sigma E, that is equal to 0. Permittivity epsilon is equal to epsilon r into epsilon naught, that is equal to epsilon naught only, that is permittivity of free space. Similarly, mu is equal to mu r mu naught, that is permeability, that is equal to mu naught, and hence the electric displacement vector d bar is equal to epsilon naught times E, and magnetic induction or magnetic flux density B is equal to mu naught times H. Now, using all these values are the parameters for the free space in the generalized form of Maxwell's equation. The Maxwell's equation for free space reduces to the first equation, del dot D is equal to rho, replaces, it should be replaced by del dot E is equal to 0. In place of rho, substitute 0. So rearranging the terms, we get del dot E is equal to 0. Second equation, del dot H is equal to 0. Substituting B is equal to mu naught H, and mu naught when I take to right side, it becomes 0. Similarly, third equation is del cross E is equal to minus mu naught times daba H bar by daba T. Similarly, the fourth equation, del cross H bar is equal to epsilon naught times daba E by daba T. So the four equations then generalized form reduces to equations A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. Now consider equation C, that is del cross E is equal to minus mu naught times daba H by daba T. Take curl of this third equation. That gives us del cross E is equal to curl E is equal to curl of minus mu naught times daba H by daba T, that is equal to minus mu naught times daba by daba T of del cross H. Now, using the value of del cross H from equation D, we get equation D is del cross H is equal to epsilon naught times daba E by daba T. So using that, we get curl of E is equal to, that is del cross E is equal to minus mu naught times daba E by daba T times epsilon naught dou E by daba T. So rearranging the terms, curl E is equal to minus mu naught epsilon naught times del square E by daba square E by daba T square. Call this as equation 1. Now let us use one of the popular vector identities in electromagnetism, that is curl of a vector del cross E is equal to minus del square E plus gradient of divergence of E, minus del square E plus gradient of divergence of E. Call this as equation 2. But we know that from equation 1, del dot E is equal to 0. So this vector identity reduces to del of del cross E, del cross of del cross E is equal to minus del square times E. Substituting 3 in equation 1, we get del square E is equal to mu naught epsilon naught times daba square E by daba T square. And rearrange terms, del square E minus mu naught epsilon naught times del square E by del T square, that is equal to 0. Call this as equation 4. Now we got the differential equation for an electromagnetic wave in terms of electric field vector. Similarly, we can write the equation in terms of magnetic field vector H. Let us do that. Now consider equation D, that is in terms of del cross H, curl of the magnetic field vector H. Take curl both sides for the fourth equation, that is equation D. That gives us curl of curl H is equal to curl of epsilon naught times dava E by dava T, that is equal to epsilon naught times dava by dava T of del cross E. Now substitute the value of del cross E, that is curl E, using equation C. Substituting equation 3 in this equation, we get del cross of del cross H is equal to epsilon naught times dava by dava T of minus mu naught times dava H by dava T. That is the value of del cross H. It implies curl of curl H is equal to minus mu naught epsilon naught times del square H by dava T square is equal. Call this as equation 5. Now using the vector identity, curl of curl H is equal to minus del square H plus del of del dot H, that is gradient of divergence of H. But divergence of H is equal to 0, that is one of the Maxwell's equation, that is second Maxwell's equation. Substituting that, we get curl of curl H is equal to minus del square H. Call this as equation 6. Substituting equation 6 in equation 5, we get del square H is equal to, replace this del cross H in equation 5 with this term, minus del square H. So we get del square H is equal to mu naught times mu naught epsilon naught dava square H by dava T square. Or shifting the terms to the left side, del square H minus mu naught epsilon naught del square dava square H by dava T square is equal to 0. Call this as equation 7. Now, equation 4 and 7 represents the wave equations governing the electromagnetic fields E and H in free space. As I already mentioned, fourth equation represents the wave equation in terms of electric field vector, and equation 7 represents the wave equation in terms of magnetic field vector. These two equations, equation 7 and 4 and 7, together constitutes the differential equations for electromagnetic fields. Now, let us find out the velocity of these electromagnetic waves in free space. Already we know the differential equations governing the electromagnetic fields E and H in free space. Let us write them. Del cross E minus mu naught epsilon naught times dava square E by dava T square is equal to 0. The first equation in terms of electric field. Similarly, in terms of magnetic field H, del square H minus mu naught epsilon naught times del dava square H by dava T square is equal to 0. Now we have two equations in terms of E and H. Now these two equations are the vector equations which are in identical form. Only changes in the first equation we have the electric field vector, in the second equation magnetic field vector. Only this change. So since they are identical, it implies each of 6 components of E and H, 3 components for electric field and 3 components of magnetic field, separately satisfies the same scalar wave equation of the form. So let us write this in the form of wave equation, scalar wave equation, del square phi minus mu naught epsilon naught times dava square phi by dava T square is equal to 0. There is a typing error. There must be equality symbol here. That is equal to 3. Equations 1 and 2 are the vector equations of the identical form, which means each of these 6 components, that is 3 components for electric field vector and 3 components for magnetic field vector H, separately satisfies the same scalar wave for equation of the form del square of phi minus mu naught epsilon naught times del square phi by dava square phi by dava t square is equal to 0. Well, this is equation 3, where phi is a scalar and can stand for any one of the components E and H. It is obvious from the above equation. This equation resembles the general wave equation del square phi minus 1 by v square dava square phi by dava t square is equal to 0, where v is the velocity of the wave. Comparing the above two equations, we see that the field vectors E and H are propagated in free space as waves with a speed equal to v is equal to 1 divided by root of mu naught epsilon naught times. This is in free space. We know that for free space, mu naught is equal to 4 pi into 10 to the power of minus 7 Henry per meter, and epsilon naught is equal to 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12 farads per meter. Substituting these values of these two constants, we get velocity of these electromagnetic waves is given by approximately equal to 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meters per second. Thus, we can conclude that electromagnetic waves in free space propagate with a speed equal to the speed of light. Now let us prove one more important property of electromagnetic waves. The first property we proved, electromagnetic waves travel in free space with a speed equal to speed of light. The second one is the transverse nature of electromagnetic waves. To prove that, let us consider again the differential equations governing the electromagnetic fields E and H. Del square E minus mu naught epsilon naught times dava square E by dava t square is equal to 0. The first equation in terms of electric field. Second equation, differential equation in terms of magnetic field. Del square H minus mu naught epsilon naught times dava square H by dava t square. Call this as equal to 0. Call this as equation 2. The solution of these equations are of the form E is equal to E naught e to the power of minus I into omega t minus k bar dot r bar, where k bar is the propagation constant, omega is the angular frequency. Similarly, if we write this solution in the form of magnetic field vector, h bar is equal to h naught times e to the power of minus I into omega t minus k bar dot r bar. As I mentioned already, omega represents the angular frequency of the wave and k represents the propagation vector of the wave. Now differentiating equation 3 with respect to space, we get del dot E, divergence of E bar is equal to, differentiating this ik bar epsilon E naught times e to the power of minus I into omega t minus k bar dot r bar. This is equal to, this term represents the electric field vector E bar, instantaneous value of electric field vector. So I k bar dot E bar, or simply comparing LHS and RHS, we get the value of del is equal to I k bar. The value of the operator del bar is equal to I k bar. Call this as equation 5. Similarly, differential equation 3 with respect to time, dou E bar by dou t is equal to, that is, we are differentiating partially with respect to time only, not with respect to space. We get minus I omega, since that we are differentiating with respect to only with respect to time, this parameter comes minus I omega E naught e to the power of minus I omega t minus k bar dot r bar. This comes out to equal to minus I omega into E bar, or comparing these two, LHS and RHS, we get the value of the operator dava by dava t is equal to minus I omega. Now, differentiating equation 3 with respect to space and time, we got the expressions for the two operators, del operator and dava by dava t, represented by equation 5 and 6. Similarly, these two equations 5 and 6 can also be obtained by differentiating equation 4 with respect to space and time respectively. We can go for any one of the methods, either use equation 3 in terms of electric field or equation 4 in terms of magnetic field to get the values of the two operators. Now, from Maxwell's divergence equations, that is equation 1 and 2, the first equation, del dot E is equal to 0. It implies, substitute the value of the operator del, I k bar dot E bar is equal to 0. It implies, since the dot product of two vectors is equal to 0, it implies those two vectors are perpendicular to each other. That is, k bar is and E bar are perpendicular to each other. That is, propagation vector, that is the direction of propagation of the electromagnetic wave is perpendicular to the direction of electric field E bar. This is represented as 7a. Similarly, consider the second equation, divergence equation, del dot H is equal to 0. Substituting the value of the operator del, I k bar dot H bar is equal to 0. It implies k bar and H bar are perpendicular to each other. It means magnetic field is perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the wave. Now let us conclude in another way by using the curl equations. From these two equations, 7a and 7b, it is clear that k is perpendicular to E bar, k is perpendicular to H bar. Now, next step is to prove that E and H are perpendicular to each other. Once we prove that, then all the three vectors are mutually perpendicular to each other, which proves the transverse nature of electromagnetic waves. To prove that, consider the Maxwell's curl equations, equations 3 and 4. Now consider 3. Del cross E is equal to minus mu naught times dava H by dava T. It implies I k bar cross E bar is equal to, substituting the value of the operator del, is equal to minus mu naught times minus I omega H bar. So differentiating H with respect to time, we get minus I omega H bar. So this is equal to I omega mu naught times H bar. Now taking I outside, eliminating I from the LHS and RHS, we get k bar cross E bar is equal to omega mu naught times H bar. From this it is clear that the cross product of two vectors is equal to H bar. It implies H bar is perpendicular to both E bar, K bar and E bar. That is, H bar is perpendicular to the plane containing K and E. Call this as 7. Similarly, consider the fourth equation, del cross H is equal to epsilon naught times dava E by dava T. This implies I k bar dot cross H bar is equal to epsilon naught times differentiating electric field vector, the solution 3. With respect to time, we get minus I omega E bar, and this comes out to be minus I omega epsilon naught times E. Eliminating I, we get k bar cross H bar is equal to minus omega epsilon naught times E bar. This implies E bar is perpendicular to the plane containing K bar and H bar. Now I will summarize the application of 4 equations. The first equation leads to the conclusion that K bar and E bar are perpendicular to each other. Second equation leads to the conclusion K bar and H bar are perpendicular. Third equation concludes H bar is perpendicular to the plane containing K bar and E bar. And fourth equation concludes that E bar is perpendicular to plane containing K bar and H bar. So from equations 7a to 7d, it is clear that K bar, E bar and H bar are mutually perpendicular to each other, and by Cork-Rue rule, by applying Cork-Rue rule, we can conclude that these three vectors are mutually perpendicular to each other. In other words, electromagnetic field vectors are perpendicular to the direction of propagation, and hence these waves are transverse in nature. Now let us derive the phase relation between E bar and H bar. Phase relation between electric and magnetic field vectors. From Maxwell's curl equation, we have del cross E is equal to minus mu naught times the dava H by dava T. Call this as equation 1. But we know that the operator del is Ik bar and the operator dava by dava T is equal to minus I omega. Substituting these two values, we get Ik bar dot cross E bar is equal to minus mu naught times minus I omega H bar. As clearing the terms, I omega mu naught times H bar. So eliminating I, we get K bar cross E bar is equal to omega mu naught times H bar. Now taking K is the propagation constant. Let us write its unit vector as n cap. N cap cross E bar is equal to omega by K, taking K to the right side, mu naught times H bar. I will repeat, unit vector in the direction of propagation of the wave, where n is the unit vector along the direction of the propagation of the wave. So n bar cross E bar is equal to mu naught times C into H bar. Since omega by K represents the velocity of the wave, let us take this as equal to C because it is equal to velocity of light. Now, in vacuum, the ratio of the magnitude of E bar to the magnitude of H bar is symbolized as Z0, and it is often referred to as wave impedance for free space. So Z0 is equal to magnitude of E bar and H bar, ratio of the magnitude of E bar and H bar, that comes out to be equal to mu naught times C, using the previous relation. Or using the value of C, 1 divided by root of mu naught epsilon naught, we get Z0 is equal to mu naught divided by epsilon naught. If you substitute the values of mu naught and epsilon naught, mu naught is 4 pi into 10 to the power of minus 7, epsilon naught is 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. So this comes out to be 376.6 ohms. Further, since Z0 is equal to E naught by H naught is a real and positive quantity, this implies that the field vectors E and H are in same phase. That is, they have the same relative magnitude at all the times, at all the points, as shown in figure. If you compare the relative magnitudes of electric and magnetic fields, it will be the same at all the points in space and at all the times. Whatever the magnitude of electric field, that those two will bear a definite ratio at all the times. That ratio is equal to Z0, and it is called as the wave impedance. Energy in an electromagnetic wave. We know that electromagnetic waves, just like any other kind of wave, must carry the energy. In an electromagnetic wave, the energy is stored in the field itself rather than the residing with the particles. Since electromagnetic waves, so this is because electromagnetic waves does not require any material medium. This point clearly concludes that, I will repeat, in an electromagnetic wave, the energy is stored in the field itself rather than the residing with the particles. So this point clearly concludes that electromagnetic waves does not require any material particles for their propagation, so they can travel through the space as well as they can travel through vacuum, unlike the mechanical waves. The instantaneous energy, as we know, electromagnetic waves, energy exists in two forms, in the form of electric field and in the form of magnetic field. The instantaneous energy stored in the electric field per unit volume, that is, energy density of the electric field, is given by U suffix E is equal to of E bar dot D bar, where E bar is the electric field vector and D bar is electric displacement vector. If we substitute D is equal to epsilon naught E or epsilon E, then it comes out to be of epsilon E square, the general expression. Similarly, the instantaneous energy stored in the magnetic field per unit volume, that is energy density of the magnetic field, is given by UB is equal to of H bar dot B bar, where H is the magnetic field intensity, B bar is magnetic flux density. That is equal to half mu H square. Thus, the instantaneous energy stored per unit volume or energy density of the electromagnetic field is given by total energy is equal to the sum of electric field energy or electric field density and magnetic field density. UV, energy due to electric field density and magnetic field density. So the sum gives us of E bar dot D bar plus H bar dot B bar, and that is equal to half into epsilon E square plus mu H square. This gives us the total instantaneous energy density of electromagnetic field. Now let us define a term called Poynting vector. We know that in an electromagnetic wave, energy propagates. The rate of flow of energy in an electromagnetic wave is described by a vector S bar and is called as Poynting vector. Mathematically, it is defined as S bar is equal to E bar cross H bar, that is equal to 1 over mu times E bar cross B bar. In terms of H, E bar cross H bar. In terms of B, 1 over 1 by mu times E bar cross B bar. Now from this formula, it is clear that the direction of Poynting vector is always perpendicular to both electric field and magnetic field vector. In other words, it is the direction of propagation of electromagnetic wave. Now observe here, if this represents the direction of electric field vector E bar, magnetic field is represented by B bar, that is electric field along y-axis, magnetic field along x-axis, then the direction of the Poynting vector S bar is along the x direction, which is the direction of propagation of electromagnetic wave. The physical significance of electromagnetic Poynting vector. The magnitude of Poynting vector gives the rate at which energy flows in through a unit surface area perpendicular to the direction of propagation of the wave. In other words, it gives us the energy flux, or it gives the measure of intensity of the electromagnetic wave. So its SI unit is watts per meter square. So Poynting vector is the vector which gives the direction of propagation of the electromagnetic wave, and the magnitude of this wave gives the measure of intensity of the wave, or the rate at which energy flows per unit area perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. The next one, Poynting theorem. Poynting theorem states that the energy dissipated in a given volume free of any sources is equal to the sum of the rate at which the decrease in electric and magnetic energy stored in the volume takes place and the rate at which energy inflow occurs through the surface. This Poynting theorem states that the energy dissipated in a given volume free from any sources is equal to the sum of rate at which the decrease in electric and magnetic energies of the space takes place per unit volume takes place and the rate at which energy inflow occurs through the surface. Mathematically, we can write the equation as, that is Poynting theorem, as volume integral of E bar dot J bar into dV is equal to minus of integral of dou by dou t of E bar dot d bar plus of h bar dot b bar into dv minus surface integral of E bar plus h1. Interpretation of the statement of Poynting's theorems. The first term, that is the term on LHS, integral of E bar dot j bar into dv, represents the rate at which the energy is dissipated into electromagnetic field through the motion of free charges in volume V. This result is obtained as the generalization of Joule's law. The first term represents the energy dissipated into the electromagnetic field, and it is through the motion of free charges. The second term, the first term on RHS is the integral of dou by dou t of E bar dot d bar plus of h bar dot b bar into dv. This term represents the rate at which the electromagnetic energy stored in the volume V decreases. The second term on the RHS, that is surface integral of E bar cross h bar into ds, represents the rate of flow of energy outward through the surface enclosing the volume V and is called as Poynting theorem. So the conclusion is, whenever the energy flows, whenever a charge is in motion, it dissipates the energy in the electromagnetic field. That energy dissipated is equal to the rate at which energy decreases in the energy stored in the volume decreases, and plus the energy at the rate at which energy flows. Poynting vector represents the flow of energy, and this first term represents the rate at which the energy decreases. So if you take the sum of these two, that gives us the rate at which energy is dissipated in the electromagnetic field. Thank you.